Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Monkey Business. We're talking about digital storytelling is our business. Today, we're here to discuss Ryan Coogler's Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever. So, spoiler warning, if you have not seen the movie yet, please go see it. Turn this podcast off. Don't listen to it until after you've seen it because we will be spoiling the entire movie. So, uh,
And most likely the first one too. So,
yeah, it's a good point. Thank you,
but
Carter. Yeah.
yeah.
So if you haven't seen Black Panther and Wakanda Forever, please go see them before listening to this. You have been warned. All right. So for those who are sticking around, sorry for my voice. It sounds a little bit like a water buffalo with pneumonia. I'm trying to get over a cold sore throat. But as Wise Man once said, I can do this all day. Thankfully, not alone here. As always, I've got my two co-hosts. First, his people call him Kukul Khan, but his enemies call him Namor because he has no love for the MCU. It's Carter. How's it going, Carter?
It's going good. It's a good introduction. It was solid, Warren. Might be your best one yet.
Oh, thank you. Well, they
It's good
say
to be here.
brilliance at such a young age is not always accepted by the elders, but we accept him. The real question is he going to be noble like his brother or take care of business like Carter? It's Will.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
So, without further ado, I guess we kind of have to start with the elephant in the room heading into the movie, which was how are they going to deal with obviously the lead actor Chadwick Boseman passing away before they started filming the movie. So that was kind of the big question heading into it. How would they address that? And they really address it in the first like I don't know 3 or 4 minutes with T'Challa dying and the funeral. What do you guys think of how they handled that?
Honestly, I thought it was pretty tasteful, well done, and it kind of progresses the story along from where it was. You don't have to have any time skip summaries or stuff like that. It's like, okay, that old
Yep.
protagonist is gone, and there was a like the Chadwick Boseman tribute in the Marvel opening credits as well, which was very tasteful. But then it was immediately, thank you very much. This is sad, yes, but we are going to progress our story along in this way, but
With a
not
time
make
jump.
with a time jump, but not make light of a character's death or any death because of a uncurable disease or something like that. So yeah, I thought it's pretty well done, and um, I thought the whole performance art of it was great. I thought it was a fun spectacle. The dancing, the costuming, just solid.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool decision to have everyone wear white for the funeral. And it was almost like a celebration of sorts because everyone was dancing. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I just couldn't help but notice the scene when they're like going along the road as the what's it called? What is it called? The box that
Coffin.
Casket.
off it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
As they're carrying that along and they're going down the road, there's just like the one guy dancing there who looked like he was having a blast. Did you guys notice him? There's one guy who just
I
seemed.
probably did. I just don't remember.
Anyways, Carter, go ahead. What were your
But
thoughts?
yeah, I'm with you that for the funeral, I think it was pretty well done. I like the white, like you said, that they were all doing that. I'm not a big fan of the opening scene. Um, I thought it was just weird to have them have I don't know. It could have been a decent setup for her story, but just her racing against time to try to make a miracle drug in time within seconds of her brother's death and talking to her AI, which was really weird, and all of them trying to, they have their screens up and they're throwing stuff around, and then her mom comes in and then they like saying, "Oh, he's died." I just didn't
Dude, I forgot entirely
sit
about that scene,
right with me.
honestly.
It was just strange. It's a strange way to open a Marvel movie, I think. Well, I don't know. It's just a strange way to open a movie in general, to have this. I get that he died in real life and it's tragic and it's awful and it's sad, but it's strange to open with him still being alive and they're like, oh, we got to race against the clock and try to save him. And you know the outcome of the end of that scene. But regardless, it still felt off to me.
I think it's almost a weird spot though because I feel like you almost have to open the movie addressing it somehow, whether or not it's it happened in the past and we're doing
With
a
the
flashback or
funeral,
what.
Yeah, I'm with Carter.
Yeah, I could see starting with a funeral maybe, but yeah, I see where you're coming from. I don't think I found it jarring. I guess I was just wondering how they would address it. And I wasn't really thinking about other ways they could have addressed it.
I think if it had been a bit more touching, the opening scene, I don't know how they would have done it, but I didn't feel any emotional attachment, even though I knew what the outcome was until the funeral scene. I genuinely forgot the opening scene even happened until Carter mentioned it.
Yeah.
I think it really hit when they had the Marvel logo and the purple and the silence and then Chadwick Boseman. I think that's when it really hit.
During the opening credits or like on
Yes.
the
Yeah.
The
okay.
Marvel logo where they have
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
only him.
Yeah, I thought that was
I like that too. I thought it was good.
agreed.
Well, I guess since we're on the topic of silence, that was one
Okay.
thing. There were three specific situations that come to mind of where they used um, some of the sound editing was really cool, but specifically like a really jarring silence. So it was one, the Marvel Studios like opening fanfare, whatever that's called, with like the logo of Marvel, and usually have the Marvel fanfare playing and all these clips of Marvel characters, and just completely silent with the purple and Chadwick Boseman. And then there was when Namor stabs Shuri, you have like the score playing as the epic battles raging. All of a sudden, it's just silence. She gets stabbed. It was so jarring and really enhanced that just the unexpectedness of that moment. And then the last one is the closing credits with another tribute to Chadwick Boseman.
There was a song over that though.
He's talking about the last, like if you stay until the very end, I'm
Oh,
guessing.
you mean
No, the part with
movie?
it's just like the clips of like Chadwick Boseman in prior movies.
That was silent?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't think it was. But like I don't know, the whole silence when someone gets stabbed, yeah, that happens like a lot in movies though.
Yeah, that's not like an
I didn't
effective thing
I
or
was
a
just like,
new
oh,
thing that this
okay,
movie's
yeah.
done. You want to talk about
It kind of
silence?
simulates shock and stuff.
No, it's just
Then
because
listen
there's
to our
like
last podcast.
it's
Okay,
like
that's an effective use of
there've been
silence
like
in a
minutes
movie.
of like Ludwig Göransson's score and like all these instruments playing, and all of a sudden it just cuts like mid song,
Well, yeah,
an
but
immediate
movies
cut
do that a
as things step.
lot.
I know. I'm just saying it was well done.
Okay. I get nothing in the movie stood out to me. Like I didn't go away from the film going, that was really cool about that film. I just know as like a whole thing, I found it enjoyable. I don't know if that's spoilers for the rating later. Um, but a lot of everything really just seemed to be, man, this is a good action movie. Because after the funeral scene, they move it along quite quickly. Into what's next? Do you meet Namor at the beach at that point as after,
No,
or do we go
No,
to
Namor's
next
the
is
introduction is the rig.
that's right.
next is well, not really. You see him floating in the sky during the rig fight, but the next scene after the credits would be the I think it was the French raid on the Wakandan
And then
outpost or
United
whatever.
Nations.
The
Yeah,
United something that, and then they bring
because
him
they're at
into
the
the United
same
Nations, and
time.
they
Yeah.
yeah, it's intercut. It's not the same time.
Yes.
It's intercut, but it's shown at the same time. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
it's saying this would happen the night before. Now they're taking him to the UN.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
it kind of set up the stakes of the film pretty well right off the bat, I think. Who's going to be against who and what they're fighting over. So I kind of like that the clarification was set up so quickly. I didn't feel like there was too much wasted time at the beginning, if at all. It went from story point to story point to story point, and to introduce a pretty large ensemble of a cast, they did pretty well. I never really lost track of who was who
yeah. But
or
do you
why
think
someone
anyone
was
was
being
really
there.
introduced besides Namor and Riri Williams in this movie? I think everyone's kind of just a carryover from the first Black Panther.
You have everybody in Namor's entourage as well. Who is it? Like Namora and Atuma.
Mhm.
You have
Okay,
a
but
few more of the guards are gone into a little bit more as
There's another
well.
main character in the Dora Milaje as well.
she wasn't in the first one.
No.
Okay, she's just the one that becomes the new head of the Dora Milaje.
Aneka. I don't think she becomes the head of the Dora Milaje, but she's a new character we hadn't seen in the first one.
Um, Yeah, but
But she isn't really fleshed out. I don't really think any of these characters are fleshed out.
I don't think you need someone to be fleshed out in this type of a movie, though. I
It's
think you
really
can have
Shuri's
a
story.
fine.
Well, Shuri and I see this as like a duality story,
Hmm.
and it's Shuri's story and Namor's story, and everyone else is just a side character.
Okay.
I agree with that, and it's just if I can follow who's who in this type of a film, I don't really think I need to understand why everyone is there or fleshed out in this universe. For it to be super lived in, it's kind of I keep it fictional and I keep it almost sci-fi and just there's characters everywhere and you just see them and they're gone. Or it's like here's neat side character B with cool costume design. I like side character B with cool costume design. That guy's got a hammerhead shark on his head. That's neat.
Hmm. That works in kind of a Star Wars setting, of course. It does, and it's worked in these movies in the past before. I just I guess it would have worked if the story was better, I think.
What for you in the story falls off, I guess.
I I don't know. I'm just gonna come clean, and I think like I'm gonna come clean and say I when the movie was announced, I was worried, okay? And then because obviously it's dangerous to say, oh, the lead of this movie has passed away 1 year later. All right, let's fire up the cameras and start production on the next one.
Yeah.
But I the trailer came out and the trailer was quite good. The trailer was really good actually, and I was like, maybe they did it. I like Ryan Coogler a lot. Um, I I think if anyone could have done it, it's him. I always go into every movie just never never putting it down, never casting it aside before I see it. I go in with the opposite mindset. I always try to keep an open mind, always try to say maybe this could be great. Maybe I could love this coming out of it and really see something in it that I hadn't before I saw the movie. And it's an impossible task, I think, to follow up the first Black Panther after losing your lead tragically again. So I don't think it can be done well unless you really nail it. And I don't think they nailed it. I After seeing this, all of my fears have come true, really. I
Wow.
I I think that this film is terrible, in all honesty.
Really?
I think that this is just a disgrace to I I don't want to speak for anyone and I don't want to say that I'm all high and mighty and look, this is how people feel, but I don't know. I don't think this is dangerous saying, I'm sorry, but I don't think if Chadwick Boseman could see this, he would be super satisfied with it. I think he would feel a little disconnected, the same way that I feel disconnect, not the same way that I feel disconnected, but I feel very disconnected from this. And I don't think that anyone with who's
Brain.
who's truly working through grief and understanding what it means to lose someone and those emotions is going to connect with this unless you're 14, which is what these movies are made for, really. But I think we can't kid ourselves, guys. And I think we can't say this is a great story about, you know, the past and the future and ourselves and how we deal with our families and our friends and our nations. I think this movie is really bad.
Okay. So just like we had to do
Let
with
it all
War
out.
last week,
Yeah.
you gotta point to things in the movie if you're gonna have
Uh-huh.
all this stuff. So what do you got?
Um, I saw a review and I really like this of it. It said, um, there's a lot of big names, a lot of explosions, comically unrealistic stunts, if you're into that sort of thing. It's a classic case of an action attraction movie where the only goal is to get viewers with big names and action scenes into action sequences and not to tell a real story. I I think that very much applies to this movie. Funny thing is that's not a review of Wakanda Forever. That is Warren's review of Bullet Train.
Hmm.
Yep,
I thought it sounded
I
familiar.
it yep. And I think that just directly applies to this. I think if you hate Bullet Train, that's cool. That's fine. I think this is just so similar. I think there's just nothing under the surface. I
Ooh,
think
pun
it's
intended.
just possibly. We'll get to that. I there, there's nothing here that isn't just shallow. Hey, this guy died, so we're gonna give him a funeral in movie, and then we're gonna keep the train moving with the next up in line, next up to bat.
I don't
And
think I don't think I could disagree more. I think
okay,
this was for me one of the it's up there in MCU movies that really felt like it resonated in terms of I guess I'll put it this way. A lot of superhero movies it's hard to resonate with because they're all so big and explosive and these world-ending plots and it's hard to have characters that have emotional stakes or really be rooted in the characters at all. And I thought this movie did a fantastic job of staying true to its human elements and really telling a human story in a superhero world.
okay, not trying to dominate the conversation, but my next point is that I think that this movie, at its core, is anti-human and anti-humanist, and I think most MCU movies are that way, and I think this one just really drives into
What do you
that
mean by
point.
anti-humanist?
I mean that it has an extreme disregard for life, and it's just another blockbuster whose main premise is the perpetuation of eternal conflict. That's been something that's been rolling around in my mind ever since after Endgame. Because Endgame, it's like I hate Endgame, but it's like it's the closer, it's the cap, it's the period on the end of a decently told story. And it's a finale. It works in its own way. But after that, they it's just you have to keep going. You have to keep making money. You have to keep fighting people. You have to keep sending people to die. You have to keep bringing up these villains with their weaker and weaker motivations because they have to be there. Because the eternal conflict has to be perpetuated. And
Wait,
it's
who's the
just
villain?
from Gore to Namor to
He's not really a villain though.
I know, but
He's
it's
the hero of the
conflict.
story.
Uh, all right, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But I think that it's just I think that it takes some embarrassing turns in its storytelling and in its ideology, I think. And I think that it's weird and it's unfortunate considering that like the first Black Panther movie was like for a blockbuster, it was almost revolutionary kind of in that it really kind of challenged some things. Killmonger is one of the best villains in the MCU, I think.
Mhm.
I think I, I think we'll get to the parallels between him and Namor, definitely. But I think that he succeeds everywhere that Namor fails. And I think that he definitely challenges the worldview of T'Challa and the ideologies of Wakanda and gets them to change, but doesn't get them to falter and to cave under the weight of his worldview. They just they adapt and they alter and they go from a society that wants to help people but are secluded and they transform, at least try to, into a society that wants to help people and is less secluded. And it's steps like that kind of peel away at the eternal conflict that I'm talking about here. And I think that this one just walls itself back up.
But why do you think eternal conflict is anti-humanist?
Eternal conflict in the way that it's done in the MCU movies, in the way that it's done in blockbusters, through violence. That's the only way they know how. Because conflict is the driver of any story, of course. But I think violence is absolutely doesn't have to be. I think in so many movies, and in this one, like it's so obvious that if they just kind of sat down and talked for like 10 minutes, pretty much everything could be resolved. And I get
I
that it's like
disagree.
I get
Well, we'll
that
get to
like
that.
I get that that defeats the movie, defeats the story, and there has to be you can point to so many movies where it's like, oh, well, miscommunication, and then that's what the point, that's how what leads to the story. I
Well,
don't
let's
think these
talk
are
about that.
miscommunications, so I think this is just people being stupid and people being stubborn.
Well, let's talk
And I
about
don't
that
think
because
their characters being stubborn is validated. I think it's just them being
I
stubborn
I kind of thought
in
that
service of perpetual conflict.
the first time I
Yes.
saw it, and then I kind of thought about it, mulled it over some, and then I saw the movie again. Why? And I saw it a third time. But the more I thought about it, I really love Namor's story so much because at first you're like, yeah, why couldn't they just talk about it? Because ultimately they agree to basically be allies, right? But if you think about it from Namor's point of view for a few minutes, really, he has not encountered anyone who's even close to on his level. So he thinks that he can beat pretty much anybody. Like he thinks their army could wipe out anybody if they wanted to. And if you think about it as like two countries are in a political negotiation, knowing that you have a more powerful military lends to diplomatically operating much differently. And so he operates much differently diplomatically before and after he knows that Wakanda can beat them.
I get that, but I think if they're going for that, they need I I mean they did go for that obviously, and I don't think Wakanda has done very well in this movie from a political standpoint, from a personal standpoint with all its characters as individuals, and just from an international standpoint and their relationships with, the UN and the US and the CIA and all that. I think it's just really weak, and it should have. I think that's what movies are about. They're about getting you to see something from another perspective because it's it can really take you into the mind of someone like Namor and say, look at it from his point of view. How does he see things? How does he see the world?
And you don't think that's what it did?
I really don't, because I don't think Wakanda
Okay.
responds properly. I think they all just kind of lose their minds and just really respond irrationally to this, which could have been done and said they're they're in a spot of chaos right now because they've lost their leader. They don't really know what to do. They're going through an identity crisis, and it, there just isn't enough inner turmoil in Shuri, I think. And I think that it's just because it's a Marvel movie. I think that it's go, go, go. It's exposition dump here, action scene here, briefly touching on themes and never bringing up those themes again because time for another action scene. And then you got your emotional suit up before the third act, and then there's the third act explosions, and then the end. Post-credit scene for the next one, next conflict. It's hard because I get that people experience different things differently, and I get that this is kind of just me, but I don't feel a thing watching these movies. And if they're gonna keep going for this super super weighty, they think they're all getting really emotional and really touching a nerve. I'm just gonna call them out harder because I think they suck at it. And if people experience different things than me, that's great. That's cool. I'm happy for them. But I can't sit back and just let it wash over me and say, all right, bring on the next 30.
Well, I will say, judging on what Carter had to say before seeing the movie, and I'm not too surprised. But yeah, this movie hit really hard emotionally for me, and maybe that's just because I was very invested in um well, Chadwick Boseman would also like I loved his portrayal of T'Challa in the first movie, and I was
Hmm.
very curious to see how they would do this one. And so I was already pretty emotional just with the first few minutes. But then I was really not expecting Queen Ramonda to die, and I think that was really just the nail in the coffin that really, I don't know if I'd say it the movie hinges emotionally on that. But I think that was really well done because A, it was really unexpected, at least from my viewing. And B, I think it works so well with the characters and how it forces all these characters to deal with it. And it just goes to a whole nother level of Shuri's own journey in dealing with her grief and maybe not her identity, but who she's going to be. Because really, for pretty much her entire life, she's been overshadowed, might be too strong a word, but she's been, you could say, I guess, playing second fiddle to um, her brother. Well, her father was originally the king, and then her brother's the king, and then her mother's the king. Well, queen. So, but this whole time, like, she's been able to just kind of, sit back, and she hasn't had to be a leader or anything. She's just done her own thing, and she can hide out in her lab, and she tries to avoid the social and political responsibility and everything. But now all of a sudden, her entire family is gone. The kingdom's in disarray. They're under attack. And she has to figure out not only who she is, but who her people need her to be. And I think it's a really cool character arc for Shuri. But I think my favorite part, maybe my favorite facet of the movie, is how really I see it as maybe not a mirror, but an almost mirror of Shuri and Namor. And these two characters who they started out as, the challenges they're facing, the journeys they're on, and then ultimately the question is, who will they both choose to be at the end? Or what will they choose to be the most important? And I think ultimately I think it's a really fantastic exploration of grief of those characters and how they deal with it, but then ultimately putting aside their personal vendettas and their personal grievances and their grief and everything, that they want to put the needs of their people first. Like Shuri says, what does she say? She says, vengeance has consumed us. We cannot let it consume our people. And I think that was ultimately kind of the climax. That was like the ending of realizing, even though these two characters are prepared to fight to the death, they both are willing to admit that that's not in the best interests of their people, and they're leaders who care enough about their constituents that they can put aside some personal feelings to do what's best for their people.
So I hear what you're saying, Warren.
I hear what you're
But I
saying too, Warren. I'm
kind
gonna
of
let you finish, Will, but I
disagree.
like that on paper. I love that on paper. I just don't think it translated.
So I don't think that it really highlights characters who love their people. I think it highlights characters who are blinded by their own ego and are willing to sacrifice everything until the personal way that it impacts them is too much for themselves to bear. I don't know if Marvel set out to achieve that goal in the portrayal of the characters, but that is one of the takeaways I have from it. And this is also a theme that happens in Marvel a lot, because you have some stuff like throwaway lines where Steve Rogers says, Vision, we don't trade lives. And then how many Wakandans have to die so that Vision gets his brain ripped out? Like it's stuff like that. It's like, okay, you don't care about your friends, or you care about your friends, but you don't care about that person you've never met, which is a very interesting concept if they were going out of their way to try and showcase it, but I don't think that's what they were trying to do. But that's kind of what I see. It's like, no, it's really, let's see how far our egos can take us until we realize I don't really want to do this anymore. That's more or less what I see. I think it is a very interesting thing to touch on, because one of the final zoom outs is how many stinking dead bodies are on that ship at the very end, right? And then they also have another funeral with the queen, and it's like all these people who drown when the waterways blow up, and how many people has Namor lost because of the different shockwaves and because of Riri Williams' new Ironheart suit and all that. And I find it very intriguing that that was your takeaway. Because I'm at the
Well, at the
complete
end,
other
that
end
wasn't
where it's just no, it's
for
ego
most of the movie, but that was
consumes.
how they ended. That was why they stopped fighting.
No, they stopped fighting because she got stabbed and he got melted.
Yeah, but they kept fighting after that. And then she
Barely.
was like, yield because our people need
Okay,
us to.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think she's ever been stabbed in the stomach before. I don't think you really start walking away after that one.
But you're not Black Panther, so you know.
No, and so like that's the thing, right? Is you have to take this in the limits of the fictitious world that it is.
Yep.
However, some standards have been set forward before by the other Black Panther movie, by other Civil War movies and stuff like that, and you have different feats of strength and all with T'Challa who had been fighting for much longer.
Was T'Challa stabbed in the
And
first movie?
no, but he was overcome by like four mongrels that were on top of
I feel
him
like
during
Killmonger
Infinity
stabbed him
War.
at some point. That didn't happen.
He's stabbed, but without the power of the fruit.
Oh, okay.
Of the fruit.
Oh.
Then he was thrown off a
Heart-shaped
cliff.
herb.
And the heart-shaped herb or whatever.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, yeah, it's there, but they fought because of their egos, and they stopped because it was a draw, and they both didn't want to die.
No.
Not because
Shuri could have killed him easily.
it's sure, probably, and she probably should have.
She was
or
holding a
just sped
spear
up the
to its
next
neck.
Okay, and
Mhm.
he should have just. You ever seen Kung Fu Panda 2? Great movie.
But the
Great
reason
villain.
why she didn't kill him is because she realized that's not going to help anyone.
Or she'd never killed anybody before, and she was nervous to do so.
I think her characterization is just all over the place because there's a scene when her and Riri are captured underwater and Nakia comes in and shoots the guard, and then Shuri says, no, we have to save her. If we don't, this
Mhm.
means war. And I at that moment I was like, okay, they might have something here. There could be a conflict of interest here between Shuri, who does seem like the girl who's been overshadowed by her brother. I don't think that's too strong of a word, but I don't think she minds. I think she's okay. I think she wants to just be in her labs with her technology and then, and kind of chill out and be the younger sister and still be of incredible service to her country, but not take up the role of leadership that's been thrust upon her in this movie.
Uh-huh.
But she never grapples with that in this movie. It's instantly just, all right, we got to go to the university. We got to find this new girl, and then do some globetrotting here, go check out Namor, and then she really, and then the queen dies, and then she's just there. She's the leader.
I don't
She's
think
going
she's ever the
crazy.
leader, though.
Me neither.
Okay.
I do think it
I
is
don't think
more
she's
implied that she is an unstable head of a country, but she is not the
Like
leader.
I
she
think
kind of
she's an
takes over
unstable head of a country.
militarily, but I don't think she ever wants to be the leader. And I think that's why when she's talking with M'Baku later, and
Uh-huh.
M'Baku's asking her about like if she's okay with all the people like fleeing to Jabari land, and she's like, well, if you do this, they're gonna owe you a great debt. Basically telling him like they're gonna owe you their servitude if you do this, and you could easily make a push to be king, which he ultimately does.
Mhm.
And so the implication very much seems to be that she doesn't want to be leader and she wants M'Baku to challenge for the throne.
That's kind of what I took away too, is that M'Baku's the real
Yeah, and
leader
that's
in this
fine all
movie.
that like if that was made more explicit, but then
I don't think it
Yeah,
needed
I don't
to
think it
be.
needed to be either.
but I think it kind of did because what does happen is she does take over militarily and she does go and then she dons the Black Panther suit, jumps into the meeting where she sees M'Baku and all her mother's advisors, and they all cheer her on and they say, all right, let's take out this military ship in the middle ocean and let's fight Namor and his crew.
Well, before that,
And
she talks with
but
M'Baku
what
alone, and that's when M'Baku like he's like very hesitant, and she's like you owe me.
Also, if I may,
Mhm.
the president doesn't exactly lead the military during a time of war. General does.
Well, this isn't the
Well,
United
that's a bad
States,
analogy because he kind of
really.
does.
Yeah.
He might, but he's going to listen to all the tacticians who
I
say
hope.
how things should be run better.
Yeah, but supposedly
Um,
in Wakanda, the Black Panther is a tactician of them and all, right? Right?
yeah,
I mean,
and that's what
that's
she
what I thought
is.
T'Challa was. He was the leader, and he was also kind of the. But when T'Challa was king, they weren't really a military. They weren't this. They constantly talk about, other people being colonizers, and which they're in the right for saying that. But you can't go and follow this crazy person who's just lost her brother, just lost her mom, and just wants revenge on Namor, and is hatching this plan to get to go out into what are they called? The water people.
Talocan?
Yeah, into Talakan territory, straight up invade them and get 75% of the Wakandan military force killed.
Are you familiar with your post 2000 world history or American history?
Very much so.
So imagine, I mean, this was the Queen of Wakanda who's killed.
Hmm.
It's not just revenge. This is like they're at war. Their queen was just killed. Who
Hmm.
knows how many Wakandans were just killed? This isn't just following a crazy person who wants revenge. This is like they're scared about getting wiped out. I guess the point is throughout history, a lot of nations have gone to war for a lot less than what happened to the Wakandans. So they really do have a legitimate case for going to war because I mean they were just ambushed and their leader was killed. They're not just following a crazy person who's off for revenge.
I don't know. I get that, but I think that like good stories try to dissect what people think and say, hey, if you're gonna launch an attack on someone else and condemn the lives of so many people in your country and so many people in this other country, maybe that's not a great thing if you don't have, maybe that's not a great thing. End of sentence. I,
It's
But no one thinks like that, and
it's
that's not
not
how
just
politics works or how border crossing works with military equipment.
it's not about the thing is like Namor said he was going to come back if they don't help him. So this was it's not like they can just forget about him and they'll all be fine. If they don't do anything, they're all going to get wiped out.
yeah, I think it starts early on in the movie. I think because if you have a problem with the third act, the real problem is in the first act. And it, it nothing is just set up well. I think they try to go with this political conflict with this a lose-lose situation where they either hand over it's again, it's the we don't trade lives. It's okay, there's this one scientist and um either she dies or we get invaded. Oh, we can't hand her over. We can't
But it's
kill
not
someone
though.
like
I think that's what's so great about it because that's what it starts out as. And
okay.
that threw me off a little bit because like this is kind of a weak plot point and
Hmm.
like why is this? But they talk about that when Namor's talking with Shuri, which I really love their conversation when they're in the cave near Talocan, where basically Shuri's like, you could just give us the scientist, like we can keep her safe, make sure nobody else gets access to her, like she doesn't have to die, you don't have to go through with all this. And then Namor's basically like, that's not really the point. That's not really um it's not about her. It's about the idea that the surface world, they've reached the point where not only can they find us, but they're getting close to being able to compete with us militarily and politically and I mean all these different facets that you want to talk about, whether it's finding vibranium or their military or whatever. The point is like
So his first thought is to attack Wakanda, like the
no,
only
his
nation in the world that could come
No, his
close
first thought
to
was to form
rivaling
an
them.
alliance.
his first thought is he wants the scientist out of the hands of the CIA or
Yeah,
the person who's creating this machine who can find vibranium, aka find them, because that's another implication is that if you can find vibranium in the ocean, Talocan has vibranium all over the place. You can find Talocan and presumably, attack them. But he wants to he wants Wakanda to be allies because A, they're one of the biggest threats. and B, he thinks they'll be sympathetic to his cause because they're kind of facing a similar situation of trying to protect the vibranium against the world. And it would make things much easier if they cooperated. Did you get any sense of that, either of you?
Yeah, thought that was set up pretty obviously. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think
It's like,
it's
oh hey, country with resource sees other country with resource. Resource is big money resource. Big money resource mean big weapons. Big weapons mean big boom. We gonna cause big boom. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I go into every single movie judging it before I see it. I don't care. And the reason I do so is because I think with different movies, it's fun to have a different mindset. If I see Black Adam, I'm not going in there going, I need to learn something from this film that really stands out from other films that I've seen
Wait, now
recently.
by do you mean like you go in with a different mindset?
Oh, totally.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. The way you phrased that was a
Like
so
little,
you don't really judge it before you
yeah.
see it. You go with a
kind of
different
do.
mindset.
So I see a Black Panther, or
You have
no,
different
not Black Panther, but no,
expectations.
when
Yeah,
I
that's
see the
what it
Black
is.
Adam photo, I'm like, Black Adam, I'm like, that movie's gonna suck, and I'm gonna really enjoy it.
And we
And you know
did.
what happened? It really sucked, and I really enjoyed it. Um, Banshees of Inisherin. Like, I think this is going to be thought provoking and one of the highest quality movies I'm going to see in the year. Turned out to be so. Sometimes you go in and a movie is not at all what you were expecting, and it's like maybe you thought you'd laugh and you didn't, or maybe you thought you'd cry and you didn't. But for this, I wasn't looking to be changed by it. I wasn't looking to really be impacted emotionally, and I wasn't impacted emotionally at all, like ever. I didn't feel any tears come in. I thought I might have felt myself going, oh, that's a bit of a stretch. I didn't when they killed Queen Ramonda. I was like, wow, I didn't think they'd do that. That's a pretty bold move. Good job. And then at the end, I was like, cool. That was a lot better than every single thing to come out after Infinity War. Nice. And I just, yeah, like those are my expectations. And in regards to the movie, right? I really did think each character was pretty believable. I thought the actress who played Shuri kind of stretched herself a little bit in different directions. Some of them were hits, some of them were miss, for me. And I enjoyed it. And we can get into all of these huge principles about philosophy and what matters in a movie and all that. But when it comes down to this specific film, I really do think that the pacing was really good. They moved from one point to the next really well. The score enhanced the movie. I don't think it really took anything away. And I thought the plot was pretty obvious, pretty bold, pretty in your face, and not pushy in any, like, I don't know. I didn't see any agenda pushing in this movie. You guys might call me crazy or something, but I really didn't.
Yeah, I think you're crazy.
I,
Sorry.
huh?
Well, that goes without saying. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, I just didn't. I just was like, oh, cool. They're the bad guys and they're the good guys. And if y'all want to read into this and put more thought into it,
wait,
cool.
who are the bad guys?
Everybody, CIA mostly. CIA is always the bad guy. But like, I'm just confused as to whether you guys want to have like a philosophical discussion or a discussion about this film, I guess.
I think they could intersect because I think that's what
I agree.
movies try to do. They
Okay.
try to intersect their philosophy with their storytelling.
I think it's hard
I think that's
not.
what the great ones do.
Yeah, it's hard
Yeah, I think it's
not
hard
to
not
have the
to.
two.
I
I
think
just didn't take any philosophical stuff away from this film at all.
I
I just
think
kind of
as
watch it as an action flick.
well that's fair and that's how most people view them. And I don't want to say that as a derogatory statement. Well, I think that's okay.
No, I think
And
it's
I
how it
think
should be
that
viewed.
I disagree.
no, I kind of
No.
disagree there. But Will, I really do think you're a extremely smart person. But I think it's just, you said you go in with a different mindset. You go in with different expectations. I I definitely go in with different mindsets for movies. I really try to just erase all expectations when I go into a movie. I don't try to say, "Oh, I hope I get this from this. I hope I get this from this one. I hope this one does this." I try to just say, "I'm going to watch it as it is. I'm going to see how it is, and when it's done, then I'm going to evaluate it."
Yep,
And
I'm with Carter on that one.
cool, awesome. I think I really think that if you're a filmmaker and not a businessman in the way that Kevin Feige is not a filmmaker, he is a businessman. Ryan Coogler is a filmmaker. I don't think he's a businessman. He really just seems like a genuine person who is is affected by the tragic loss of his friend, as are probably most of these actors too. And I think that they are just stifled by this Marvel formula that Kevin Feige has to crush and squeeze everything into. I think that I really I'm sorry, but any emotion that any Marvel movie, and especially this Marvel movie, goes for is just restricted by the fact that it has to be prepackaged for mindless consumption by the Marvel machine. And Marvel just neuters and sterilizes any depth that these movies could have, and that these movies have or that they could have, because they, above all, the only thing they value is revenue and how to continue their perpetual conflict. Because in continuing their conflict, they can continue with their sales, and that's what they get. I think Coogler, he seems happy with this movie, but I don't think this is him at his truest self. I think he's just a little affected, or a lot affected. And to go
Have
back on the
you,
point I was going to say, sorry, do you know your question? I don't want you to forget it.
yeah, have you watched Fruitvale Station?
I have not.
Okay, because that's like the only thing he's done
He's done
besides
Creed.
Black Panther and Creed.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Creed, so
Okay. Creed is
all
the
I've got is Black Panther one in
Creed
this.
is the I would say I might get hate for this, but I know no one listens. But if we had an actual podcast, I would get hate for this. But Creed is the best Rocky movie. It's so good. It has the
There's not
best.
really a bar.
Okay, I agree there, but it's incredible what Coogler does with everything about that movie. The performances, the emotion, and the camera work too. It's all so well done. And the environment. He gets the environment. He gets the sociological aspect of it. I think that, as what I was going to say, as a filmmaker in any degree, if you were a filmmaker and not a businessman, you were a philosopher in some sense. You don't have to be super, super conscious of this, but you have to be aware that you're bringing your worldview, your mindset, and the word agenda has a bad aura around it today, but you're bringing your agenda,
Maybe not your worldview, but a worldview
a
into.
worldview.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it doesn't have to be super subjective, but you're bringing that to life through a
Yes.
story.
I'm just going to interject right
That's what
here.
filmmaking is to me. Yeah.
Carter, well done. That might be your finest MCU rant yet.
Dang. All right.
Not that I agree with it, but
Uh-huh.
it was a great rant.
Well, thank you, Warren. Thank you.
So then, Carter, to you, what was this movie's responsibility? What is it that you wanted it to bring home? Because you've said a lot about what it didn't do,
Uh-huh.
but you haven't put the
I think
antithesis to that.
I think one, first and foremost, and just bear with me, and I'm sorry, because I know this is a lame point, but one, it should not have been made. I don't think it should have been made.
Hmm.
And one, B, if it should be made, which, okay, give it 5 years. Give it 5 years, let them rest, and then come back and give these people something to work with. Give them that 5 year time gap and say, how have we dealt with his passing? Not, he passed away, time to make a movie, time to make more money. We can sell tickets because people will go and will say, oh, this is for Chadwick. Oh, he was such a great actor. I want to give my money to Marvel and see this tribute to him, which is clearly it's it I get that people cared. I really do. I'm not taking away from that, but it's first and foremost here to make revenue. I have some points on how to fix the story. Do you want to get into that kind of?
Sure.
Well, one other thing really quick is the first Black Panther came out in February of or January of 2018.
Hmm.
It's been 4 or almost 5 years on the dot already.
Well, I'm
So,
talking about since Boseman passed away, which was
Oh,
2020, right?
it was. It's been a good while since then, and like Coogler almost quit directing because of it. So it wasn't like an immediate thing. They
Hmm.
took a it took a while for them to get back into it.
Okay.
But I guess since his like last appearance in the MCU would have been Endgame, which would have been a lot later. So
Yeah.
you also have that. But yeah, about the movie, go for it.
Okay. Some things to fix. I just don't think any of these characters are, and I know that like this isn't me saying all the side characters need to be fleshed out. I get it. It's a goofy little fantasy movie. It's a Star Wars movie, you know? But I don't I don't see good inner conflict in Shuri or in Namor. I think Namor's just the next villain of the week that happens to survive because they want to give him a sense of false empathy and say, oh, look, he's got some right things that he's saying too, even though he's technically the villain for Wakanda.
I really disagree with that because
Okay.
I think this is really refreshing that Namor and Talokan in general, I thought they were fantastic antagonists, even though I would not call them villains, because they're really just two conflicting sides. Neither side's really right or wrong, in my opinion. Although, I mean, obviously he did kind of, kill a bunch of people, but it happens. No, I thought it was refreshing that both sides in the conflict, like neither side's like super queer, like they're both a little bit, both of them are a lot right, but a little bit wrong, and they're both in this conflict. But I thought it was refreshing that both sides are competent, both sides are strategic, and pretty generally skilled, and it wasn't like, um, what's a good example? Like, I don't know, like the ice giants on Jotunheim, or like Thanos's hordes of minions who are like mindless creatures who don't really know anything. These are two sides who know what they're doing. They're smart. Both sides use some excellent strategy, like Namora trying to take out Ironheart once she sees that Ironheart's zipping around taking out their strategic, or like taking out the sonic emitter and then bringing in the bombs to blow up the ship. Like there's a whole lot of great strategy on both sides. It's not like one side is outsmarting the other all the time.
I don't know if I'd call it great strategy.
Why
I'd
not?
just say it's like I'm just blowing things up.
Yeah, I think it's
Sometimes
just
that's great
action
strategy.
staging because
I mean,
they bring the bombs and they blow the ship up and it rocks and it's like, oh no, what's gonna happen? But the next shot, it's upright
sitting
again.
there,
Yeah.
just sitting there,
It's just sitting there
smoking,
smoking.
or sleeping. But like, yeah, I see what you're saying, Warren, and I'm glad it was refreshing for you, right?
I am too.
And the thing is I don't think this did anything different than any other stock standard action movie out there. It just didn't suck as much as everything that we've previously gotten from Marvel. So that's why it's good.
I think
Am I crazy for saying that or
a
no?
little bit, but I think
Okay.
the best thing it did is,
Mental.
and this is honestly, if ever like honestly, I would love to see this in so many more movies, but so many movies fail to have protagonist and antagonist that are both right, and you could root for both, at least in some sense. And it's not like one character's completely wrong. And
Someone hasn't seen Deadpool 2.
I'm trying to think of the way to phrase this, but both characters have good journeys, are supportable, and there's a really cool duality between both of them. And more movies, I know it's not like original, but far more movies should do that. A lot of movies try to do that and fail.
Deadpool 2 did it pretty well. Just saying.
Hey.
Um, I do want to talk about Riri. What do you guys think about her?
I liked her, but this was not really her story, so there's only so much that we saw of her.
Okay. Carter, any thoughts on her, or just it
I
was an
just think she's
introduction kind
boring.
of?
I think it's just another case of not caring about the individual. I think she's a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin. She's she is a person as a MacGuffin. She has her brain, and her brain is valuable to certain people, and it is more valuable to other people. And and then she
Sounds
jumps
like
in an Iron Man
Oppenheimer.
suit and kills people in the end. And it's like she's just a boring character.
So the one thing I wanted from her is I found her really boring too and really dull, but the thing is it's her intro, so eh.
Okay, you
But
gonna watch the TV show about her?
no,
Oh
not
Didn't
at
think
all.
so. I wasn't
But
asking you. I wanted to know you.
no, but the one thing that I don't know. So one thing I really like about some of the Marvel films that have come out is the soundtrack where I'm just like, ooh, that's a really catchy song. I like that song. And I think she fell into she got wrapped up in the rest of the Wakanda story, and they didn't let her stand out at all on her own, even just a little bit. Like she wore the clothes of everywhere that she went. She worked in the labs that was hers. She only had the one little time that was hers. And I know it's super petty, but this is the thing that I messaged. I was like, I would have loved her if the second that fight scene started, like when they're driving out of the garage and everything, if if Okoye turns on the car and just Shoot to Thrill by AC/DC starts playing, I would have been on it. Just a little, or you know what? I don't care. Put on anybody. But if you want like females or something, put like Joan Jett and the Blackhearts on. Put a little like Fleetwood Mac or something in there. I don't know, but I really wanted her to have her own music sound, and
They did play a song during that scene, and
it was an
it
AC/DC
wasn't
song,
white
and
boy
it wasn't
music.
rock.
Nope.
No, but it wasn't rock. And I don't know.
Okay,
I was like, new Tony, you gotta like rock music because that's what Tony liked.
Have you heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes, and I'm a big fan of those films, mostly for the soundtracks. Awesome Mix Volume 1 and 2 both slap. But yeah, I just I they played more of like I think it's like an African sounding upbeat hip hop song, which was fine for the chase scene. But I don't know. I really wanted some rock and roll, man. I don't care if it's petty. This is what I wanted. And they didn't give it to me. So I was bored. Do you guys think the costuming was good or boring?
I really liked it. There were so I guess this kind of ties in to that point. One of the things that I was a little concerned about going into the movie before I saw the trailer or anything was I don't know how much you guys know about Namor's comic backstory.
Nothing. I've literally never read
Okay.
anything
Well,
about him ever.
basically, even though he came out before Aquaman or was created before Aquaman, um, like he's from Atlantis, and it's very similar to Aquaman in a lot of ways. And so, given that DC, they just had an Aquaman movie come out a few years back, and yeah, I was a little worried about it being too similar to that. But I love how they changed a lot of it to be Mayan origin. Um, and I think
He's
that
just wearing boxer briefs.
well, I mean, he still did that in the comics, but uh, I think that change worked really well both narratively and visually. I think it's really cool some of the things they were able to do with like his headdress is really cool, but to me, I think Namora, her like headdress with the feathers, that looks so cool with like the orange and
Nah,
white stripes.
nah, dude. Atuma had the hammerhead
That
shark.
was pretty cool as well. But like the blue skin and like the orange feathers, that I really love that.
So, Warren, maybe you can explain this to me, but why wasn't everybody blue skinned?
What do you mean?
they were. It was
No,
just
they
Namor that
weren't.
Yeah, no,
wasn't.
it's when they were out of the water. When they're in the water, I think it had to do with like
Oh,
not having enough oxygen or something. I don't know.
because when they're in the water and you're down
Yeah,
in
then they're
like
not blue.
the sea, they aren't blue.
Right.
And I was just like, what's going on? I don't get it. Oh, and so when they come out, they're blue.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sure. Why not? I suspend all belief for Marvel movies, including most of my logic.
There were a bunch of like really small things that you guys probably wouldn't really care about that I just wanted to read. Like, for example, like when they're on the one of the early scenes when the guy's on the rig and he's like looking through binoculars and he sees like one head pop up out of the water, and then you have sirens like really haunting like choral piece playing by Ludwig Göransson. Then like you have like I don't know 7 or 8 more heads pop out of the water. They're in a wedge formation. I was like, oh, this is the the Rohan special wedge formation. Extra damage, less defense. For all you Battlefield Earth nerds out there.
They're gonna charge a boat.
Dunk. Yeah, I thought that song was cool, but you've had plenty of time. Like nothing in this movie was original.
What?
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really feel like anything in this movie was that original. I could pull something from some other movie, like even the eyes popping above water. You know what did that really well? Moto Moto in Madagascar 2.
Uh,
So yeah, it just felt like its own version of a bunch of other movies, and it worked pretty well together. I don't know, like I didn't take away any. I'm glad you like the soundtrack. I didn't really take away anything from it or
I feel like you never
the
like any
score.
soundtracks though. Every time I'm like, oh, what a great soundtrack. You're like, oh, it was there.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
I mean, I specifically said last week that I liked it,
True. Yeah,
but now I'm only getting hate here because it's not for a Marvel
Okay,
movie.
that's
Warren,
true.
you
That
suck.
is, you did say you liked that soundtrack. I'll give you that
Mhm.
one.
Mhm. I also liked Fargo's, as I said there
Okay, we
too,
haven't
but
done that.
enough
That does
about
not
that.
count. So I know this is probably just me, but there are some lines that like, oh, I was just like ready to run through a brick wall. Like when Shuri escapes and Namora is talking to Namor, and she's like, she's seen her city, like she knows where we are. What's gonna stop them from coming back and attacking us? And Namor just goes, I will. And then boom boom, and he's descending on the oh, what a bomber quote.
I think I will has been said by a lot of people throughout human history.
Have you ever
But
said I will?
yes, I have.
Yes, many times I feel.
Uh,
Any other besides that one quote there, Warren, that you were ready to run through a brick wall because of? Jeepers, your standards are low.
maybe blast through a brick wall.
I'm not gonna lie, the AI was really annoying.
Stupid.
I didn't like it
And
at
it's
all.
one thing that like just made my eyes roll was when Shuri gets captured, she has her AI there and she's talking, and then they have the bracelets, right, that try to revive people and all. And she
Mhm.
leaves her bracelet. And then Okoye is called in before the council and demoted and screamed at because she couldn't save Shuri. And then the next scene, the queen goes and talks to the AI. And it's like, why can't you just say, and then it says, where's Shuri? Where's getting tracked? And then why can't you just say, hey, is this Okoye's fault? Because it really wasn't.
Oh, it kind
Have
of
you ever dealt
was.
with
Why are you gonna,
grief?
what?
Have you ever dealt with grief in a very tense situation over the course of at least 12 to
Mm,
24 hours? Because I wouldn't exactly think straight either. All I'm saying is I'd give her the benefit of the doubt,
uh, you give who the benefit of the doubt, the queen or Okoye?
the queen.
But there's has to be things in place. You can't run a monarchy like this. There has to be something in place that says, hey, if someone's going crazy, maybe there should be a little bit of a waiting period before the best fighter in Wakanda possibly is stripped of their position and then banished to this village.
I think the thing though is that she's not necessarily the best fighter. She's just the one we know the most. Because I think that downplays the skill
I
level
don't
of
get that.
everything
What
that
has
we've
to do
seen
with my
from that
complaint,
unit
though?
as
What does that
Yeah,
well.
have to do
Carter.
with my
Carter,
criticism?
I think
Yes,
I
more.
agree with your complaint in theory, but I think
Okay.
the way they did it works better emotionally.
I don't think anything about this works emotionally, and that's why I didn't like it. That's why it didn't sit right with me.
Well,
So,
that
to
would
each his
explain
own.
why you don't
There you
like it
go.
if you
Yep.
didn't connect emotionally.
Yep.
Now, one of
Yeah.
the things I believe you and Will had mentioned that you thought the movie was like 20 minutes too long
Yep.
when
Mhm.
we first talked about it. I think I agree with you if this was kind of one of the things that I thought detracted from the movie a little bit was, and let me preface this with saying, I really love Val, played by Julia Louis Dreyfus. And I think she's a great character and great in the MCU. But I think almost all
Are
of the
you kidding?
scenes with her and Ross, basically all of the CIA scenes, I think they just,
They're all throwaway scenes.
not that they're throwaway scenes, they just
Yes.
don't fit this movie.
Not
Like
at
they
That's
just
all.
feel
that's
so
what I
out of
said.
place and different.
Yeah. I
So you can throw them away.
is
They're not throwaway because they're used, but they probably shouldn't have been.
they should have been thrown away.
That's what I said.
Is i- is her character from the comics, or is she
Yes,
new?
she's from the
Okay,
comics.
so that's why you
No,
liked her.
she's been in several MCU projects to date, but this was kind of
She
just,
has?
yeah. She was in
TV shows exist, Carter.
what was she in? She was in
Agents of
Hawkeye.
Shield.
She was in, no, um, she was in
Mm,
Hawkeye, Falcon the
TV
Winter
show.
Soldier.
TV
I think
show.
something else. I forget.
I do find that part of the MCU annoying where it's like, did you catch our fourth episode spoiler end credit scene for this movie reveal? No. Cringe.
Well, that's
Yeah,
I do think
but
that's on
that's
you.
pretty stupid.
I think that adds to the. That's
I,
besides
I
the point.
don't.
That's just the MCU.
I think it can add if the character is all. I think you're also supposed to say, I mean, that's the Marvel problem.
Oh,
They have to.
she was in Black Widow as well.
She was?
Oh no, it was Black Widow and Falcon Winter Soldier. Okay. The post credit scene.
Oh, okay. But she wasn't in Hawkeye? Because she recruits Florence Pugh for Hawkeye.
No,
I
I don't think
remember
she was
now.
in Hawkeye.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
looking at it
I
now.
think that characters have to work on their own. It can't just be, oh, that's a big, that's Elaine from Seinfeld and she's in the MCU now. Oh, isn't that cool? Something for you 90s kids. And then
Hey.
say and then and then just have her on this stupid C plot with Martin Freeman, and they are both terrible in this movie, and they are just non-existent characters. They're just there to spout exposition and to track the story.
They actually don't do anything.
Yeah, I
No,
think that was
they don't.
that was probably the worst part of the movie. Is just I don't know if I even want to say they were trying to do too much. It's just something that didn't fit and didn't work.
I think if Martin Freeman didn't show up again after his first scene, I think that'd be okay. I think the movie would have worked. I don't think a thing about the movie would have changed. I mean,
I think I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they should have just had someone play the scientist, not Riri Williams. Namor should have come up, done a 360 no scope, shot him in his stupid face, or her. I don't care. And then dive back down and just we should have had a 45-minute fight scene and movie. Greatest film of all time. Like I think
Well, good
that
thing Will wasn't directing the movie.
it would have been better. Throwing an ambulance or something in there too. Why not? Yeah, I
Can
don't
you
know.
imagine
I
if
kind of
Michael
like.
Bay had directed this? Anyways, continue.
Did you guys feel the same way about Nakia or no? And her character,
I think she
or
didn't get enough screen time.
you know what?
yes,
I agree with you.
I would go so far as to say that she should have been the main character of this movie.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yes. I think she shows up halfway through and has like 20 minutes total of screen time in this 3-hour
Mhm.
movie, and that's just not enough. And then it's basically her role in the movie is to have a son for T'Challa. It's to break people out of jail, throw her discs around a little bit,
And to make sure
not even a little
Wakanda
bit,
is
throw her
indeed
discs around in
forever.
one shot,
Yep.
one
Like
single
a
shot,
2-second
a
shot.
2-second
Yep.
shot, and then she has a kid.
Yep.
Well, I will say one of the cool things about her character is I think she speaks like 4 languages in her first like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes on screen. And apparently I think she speaks like either 5 or 6 languages in her brief screen
That's
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very
Yeah.
talented linguist.
Yet
I did like how much how much non-English there was in the movie. Kind of helped fleshed out a
I knew
few
you'd like
scenes, in my
that
opinion.
after your complaints about Rings of Power.
I'm
with you though, yeah.
I think we can always do more. Because stop being pansies about reading subtitles.
There were a
As a
lot
big-
of subtitles in this movie.
no, there weren't.
No, there weren't, Warren.
There
We're
were
watch-
like I'm not
we're
too
gonna-
against subtitles, but there were
I think
gonna
you were
watch
very
Inglourious-
against subtitles, Warren.
we're
there were a lot
gonna
of
watch Inglorious
subtitles.
Bastards, and you're gonna fall asleep halfway through. Like too much reading.
Oh, because there's a lot of subtitles in Inglourious Basterds. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Well, subtitles
Most,
just
most of the movie is not in English.
subtitles bother me because I read faster than the characters speak, and so then I read it and I'm just waiting to finish, like catch up. And I'm
Dude,
like,
you're just like
oh,
DJ Khaled suffering from success, man. You're
I
so
wouldn't say
good,
that.
bro.
Okay.
Now, one of the things with the different languages and different regions that was kind of cool is which is kind of a small thing, but when they're doing the what is it called, the names of these places or like the time or whatever,
Mordor.
the different the different languages, and they like it flips to English, like all those are different like fonts and colors, and it all just very different styles on everything. And also just visually, like the sets are so different between like Talokan and Wakanda and Langley, Virginia,
I
and
mean, that's because it's
the
a different
UN, and
country.
there's a lot of variety visually.
Okay. But that's just so for me, that's just a movie doing its job,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're gonna take me to Paris, put the Eiffel Tower in the back,
If you have
and I
$200 million, you better be able to make a set that is country appropriate.
yeah. So it's like for me, it's like I hear what you're saying, but if they had just done New York City for three different places, it would have been stupid. So it's like, yeah,
I mean, like, of course
if
we
you're
can praise
gonna
the production design and the production designers, but I don't think that this one went above and beyond. I don't think it did anything
no,
unique or different, like Will said.
I think it played it safe, and I didn't mind that it played it safe. Um, but I don't really think it stood out in any way either. They didn't build upon the lore. Um, they didn't build upon any of the landscapes that we'd seen from other films. Like you're introduced to Talokan, but that's mostly two rooms and CGI.
Hey,
And it's so
Um,
ugly. It's so
it
bad
doesn't look
looking.
that
All the
good.
underwater stuff
No.
is just ugh. It's just
Yeah.
slimy, and they're going through, and Shuri's in the suit, and it's like trying to show the beauty of this underwater like country, and it's just ugly. It
Was I the
doesn't
only
look
person
good.
who couldn't stop thinking about Finding Nemo,
what?
by the way?
Similar color palette, and like,
No. When they're going through the
oh,
currents,
you look,
it's
yeah,
the OC,
it's the
bro.
AC, dude.
It's the AOC. But no,
No, the
I
EAC, right?
100% EAC,
East
yeah.
Australian
He's
Current.
just yeah, dude. I just couldn't stop thinking about Finding Nemo. And I know they wanted it to be moving, but that was the only thing
Well,
going through
that
my
also might
brain.
explain why you guys weren't quite as so much on side of Talocan, because I really liked how it looked, and I thought it was just a really quaint, like
Okay. What of it did you see though? Like that's my other thing is like what of Talocan do you actually see?
you see like the palace, and a lot of it is kind of
In the
dark, but
distance.
well, it's because it's like at the bottom of
And
the
there's
ocean.
like the one shot of his throne where he's just,
Well, that was a different. That was like, yeah, I don't know if that's the throne room or what, but that was like
yeah.
inside the city, I think.
hmm But it's like indistinguishable from everything else, though. There's just
Talking underwater sounded awful too. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like it.
everything underwater was bad. And like, this is a goofy comparison, but we said
Wait. Please say Shark Tale. Please say Shark Tale. Because I will also say Shark Tale. For how an underwater city looks? No? Okay, never
no,
mind.
sorry. You can still say Shark Tale, but like,
Shark Tale.
what I was gonna say is that Avatar 2 is coming out soon, and those trailers, say what you want, like they
It
look
looks
good.
gorgeous.
They
Oh
look
my
like two
gosh,
hundred
the
million
movie
dollar
looks good.
movies. They look
Yeah.
really well done, and these just don't.
I think your main complaint is like we don't see much of it, and maybe you didn't like what we did see. I
hmm
think that's maybe almost a good decision though, because I don't think it matters.
Because more of a bad is more bad.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? I thought you were just praising the set design.
Well, we did see, yes, but I think it's kind of irrelevant to the story, and I don't know, especially because, and again, I
No,
think this brings us back to Aquaman. I don't want it
uh-huh.
to be like Aquaman, and I feel like
Okay, but
That's not
there's
what I
ways
mean.
to do it differently.
I
You can
agree,
still do underwater civilization and not be exactly like Aquaman just because it's underwater.
but I think they
And
showed
I think
enough,
you need to create a sense of empathy for this underwater
and I
civilization
think that's what it
if
did.
you want them to be the antagonist, and but not just the antagonist, to say there's a lot of right with them. It did need to it needed to look better. It needed to feel more lived in order for you to care about this civilization as not just the next army that our heroes are going to fight. I don't think it did that very well.
That's fair. I'm not going to disagree with you because I mean, I think it's just
I
kind of.
think we're agreeing on nearly everything. I think our just how it touched us emotionally splits our directions of how we feel.
And
I
I think
think.
that, yeah, I think I would agree. And I think that just matters so much for this movie because that's really
Yeah,
the heartbeat of the movie. It's just
yeah,
that emotional. It's
yeah,
such an emotional movie, and if you didn't connect with that, it's hard to appreciate the movie, I think.
So
for sure.
I am on that odd spectrum, right? I didn't really get any emotional
Here we
takeaway at all.
go.
I didn't feel
How?
engaged.
Well, at
Because
least for me and
it's
Warren,
that's fair. Yeah.
that's
Okay.
absolutely the thing.
Cause for me it's
But yeah,
just stock standard Marvel action movie.
yeah. Don't you just get tired of it, man?
Not
Uh,
this one. I thought
okay.
this one was fun.
See,
I
somehow Will
did.
and I are on different pages on like everything because
Oh yeah.
I think this
Nope.
is
Completely
very
disagree
different
on a
from
lot of stuff.
most MCU movies.
Nope.
It's not there is
No.
no MC movie that is very different from any other MCU movie except for Loki.
TV show.
Okay.
I think
Well, there
this
you go.
is in the entire
Thor
MCU,
Ragnarok?
I think this is their
Yeah, there's an
best
argument to be made there.
conflict. I
Oh
think of
my
all the MCU
gosh.
projects, this is my favorite conflict to date.
How?
It's
Or why?
just
So
a worse version of the first Black Panther, though.
I disagree. I think this is an even better conflict, an even better antagonist
Hmm.
because there's so much more weight, more than just it's not just T'Challa and Killmonger. It's it's not just Shuri and Namor. There's so much weight behind the decisions they make because it's also their kingdoms as well and all
But
of these other characters.
they totally disregard that though. They don't care about anyone except for the the few elites at the top, our main characters, and a couple of the CIA agents that are shown, and the scientists that are shown. If you get screen time, you matter. If you don't, you don't. And that's like that just doesn't. I know it's a movie, I know it's fiction, but it doesn't sit right with me. Just a disregard for life is what this has, I think.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there because there are a lot
Okay.
of characters who get no screen time,
Hmm.
and they are ultimately the reason why the conflict stops at the end when Shuri can't kill Namor because she's like, it's because of those people that we've got to stop this. We've got to put an end to this. We've got to.
Well, she has to put an end to it because all the side characters have been killed out and only the main characters have formed a defensive ball on the ship.
Yeah, and you don't want them to die.
Well,
They
she
have to
doesn't
live
know
because they
that.
matter. They matter
Well,
more.
actually, she does. It's called the plot armor. Um, but yeah, it's like
It's this civilization that just champions equality, over with all their citizens, and then it's all these people just get sent to die, and then the
They're not
leaders are
being
the one
sent
that
to
matter
die
more.
though. They're fighting for survival because if they don't fight, they're going to get wiped out.
dude, just
There's no way to
build a
fortify their city
plane.
better. Like,
There's no way they could beat Talokan without, and well, at least until Shuri becomes Black Panther, because nobody could stop Namor.
I'm pretty sure if you dropped a nuke on him, he would probably say "ouch."
In the ocean,
Yeah,
how's
that's
that
where
going to
they
work?
tested him.
How
They
are you going to?
tested him in the ocean.
let's not say nuclear conflict is the solution to this, guys. You're going in the wrong direction.
No, I'm not. It adds explosions.
No.
And then Riri can do the thing where she takes the nuke and puts it somewhere else,
Hey,
like
but
the CIA
maybe they're
headquarters.
like Asgardians, where radiation doesn't affect them the same way. Who knows?
Or like Hulk.
Yeah, maybe he's as strong as the Hulk. And Baku thinks so.
Baku's wrong.
I got a good chuckle out of all the kids behind us, didn't it? Well, he referenced the Hulk.
I'm just, yeah, I don't know. I don't think every movie needs to have any type of takeaway. I think some you can just kind of go, "Oh, that's kind of neat."
It
Like for
doesn't have
me,
to have a
Jackson,
life-changing takeaway, but it has to have a positive takeaway. You have to say, you know what, I thought that was a good one. I liked what it said in this little thing. And if it doesn't impact your life past that, that's okay. But this one didn't have that for me.
so I think you very much can have a, I just think it's neat, and that's why I like it. I'm also very much a person of,
I think
I
like,
love Jackson Pollock. I don't know why.
okay.
I just think the paintings are neat.
Hmm.
They don't do anything for me emotionally.
They do
I
though.
would
They do stuff emotionally if you just think they're neat and if you enjoy like looking at them, you know? You may not really feel it. You may not have brought that to surface and say these things affect me because even though they don't make sense, I think they're funny and I really, they spark joy in my life.
well then you had an
I'm
emotional
a little
takeaway.
lost.
It
How
was
are we
just
talking about Jackson
negative
Pollock?
because it so do you know what Jackson Pollock's paintings look like?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just like, I don't know. I think they're cool. I don't know why I think they're cool. There's nothing that really exudes emotion from it. There's nothing you look at it and you get like melancholy or something like that. It's just it's a painting that's a bunch of splattering and I think it's cool. And I think it's okay to like those types of movies. And I definitely think that they have a place inside of the world of cinema where it's just, yeah, here, come in, turn off your brain and sit for a while.
Well, Carter, you're asking for a takeaway. I think the takeaway is only the most broken people can be great leaders.
I think this is a stupid line too, because
It's such a great line because it fits them
no,
so
it's
well.
not.
Because
It's also
the
been used in a
ending
lot of other movies
is
in different ways
because
before.
they've
Great power.
they've
You know what comes with
experienced
great
so
power,
much
Warren?
loss, so
Great
much grief,
responsibility.
so much history, they've experienced so much that they know what their people are going through and they care about their people enough to put aside their own petty grievances and their own personal vendettas and their own whatever to do what's best for their people.
But only after they've gotten large amounts of people killed. It's the irony
Yeah.
of the
Yeah,
upper
it's their
class.
journey.
Yes.
They don't start there.
I don't
But
think that's something to be
I don't
celebrated.
think the journey is clear cut, and I don't think it's that like I don't think it's a journey that makes sense. I think that quote in a vacuum can work, but I think it's just surface level again, like everything else in this movie. I think it's oh sure, let's oh this guy died in real life. Okay, that's definitely a loss. Let's kill Shuri's mom and let's say now she's a broken person. But she hasn't really gone through anything
So
in the
did you think it
movie.
was rushed?
It's just plot points. It's not
I don't
true emotional.
I don't think it was earned.
No, not at all. I don't think so.
I think
Yeah, I
I
think it
can
was rushed.
understand why this character would be upset, right? Obviously, she lost her brother, she lost her mom, and now she's losing kind of just her hold on her own, but like she's also been pushed into a box, right? She's been pushed into this corner and she has to figure out how to work inside of that. So I can understand pretty much any action you take from there. If the character decided to crumple, if the character decided to like start a war, which she did, sure. But I do think that my takeaways from the movie are not at all what the movie set as the takeaway, which is behold the irony of those who send other people's sons off to war.
Yes.
But again, she's not starting a war. This is Namor after he kills Queen Ramonda, he's there, he's like, mourn your losses, like grieve your dead. I think he said like you have a week and then we're coming back and you're either with us or you're dead.
So if I may, no, she is not starting a war, but she is also not preventing a war. She is allowing a war to occur because there is an out. You kill Riri. That's
No,
what
that's
happens.
not the
you hand
out.
over Riri.
That's just the start because he said like you're with us wiping out the rest of the world or we're going to wipe you out.
Only after they don't hand over Riri and he
No,
has
no,
to
no, no,
take
no,
her.
because they have that whole conversation. He's like, really, it was never about her because someone else will just make them like someone else will figure out how to make the machine. It was never about her. It's about the surface world growing into their potential and to a capacity where we're beginning to become concerned about them.
Yeah, that would have been a good conflict, but that's a throwaway line. And then
It is.
and
No,
then
I
it's
don't
into
believe
the
the line at all.
shallow,
Yeah.
are we gonna hand over a person or are we gonna not gonna hand over a person?
No, 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 that
It's
was
not really
after.
get
explored in depth
No, no,
after
no.
that.
This is not throwing line. This is what the second half of the movie hinged on. This is why they went to war, because it's not just about Riri Williams. It's about so much more. It's either Wakanda's going to help Talokan wipe out everyone else, or they're going to wipe it out along with everyone else. And so that's when Namor
it's
kills
a
Queen
big,
Ramonda.
bold thing that
He's like, you
here's
have a
my thing.
week, and you're either with us or we're wiping you out.
So for me, it's like, okay, so the ocean people are saying they're going to wipe out all of humanity that lives on the land.
Yes.
Okay, so let's put the White House in Kansas and see what happens. Like, whoa, I don't know. Like, I understand it's like, well, shipping is a major thing in trade, and it's very hard, and oil is in the ocean as well, and they could take over the oil rigs. Yeah, sure, but like, do you really think nothing about Talokan made me think that they could take over the world? Nothing. And so it really kind of sounded like a bogus claim, like we'll take over the world. With the whales, you're gonna put the whale onto the. I mean,
Yeah. How are you gonna take over hot places? How are you gonna take over Miami? You know,
dude, Colorado,
your
Colorado's just chilling.
strongest guy can barely withstand the heat, bro. How's everyone else who turns blue gonna go invade somewhere like that?
They beat him by making him like sweat.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they killed him. Like, oh no, man, it's Percy Jackson. Like, he gets power from the water. It was dumb. Like, but I didn't come to be moved by it. I came to see an action scene, and I got an action scene, and it was funny. Yeah, no, I think most of this film is just huge irony that they never thought was gonna be thought about, and then behold me, the stupid one. And it's just like, yeah, no, it's just dumb line after dumb line after dumb line after explosion,
oh my gosh, the
after
dialogue
capture,
is
after cool pop, was it like a pop culture reference, after hip saying, after cheer moment, after sad moment. But to me, the formula was exactly what I wanted, so I had a good time. Right? Like, I knew exactly what to expect from the
and
movie.
it's just the formula
I
doesn't
got
work for
exactly
me.
what I expected from the movie, and I was happy.
Also, the entire nation, they have, well, I mean, it's kind of in the weeds, but they can be on land just fine. It was just because he was in like a super dehydration chamber. Anyways, that's besides the point.
No, just him. Just him. Everybody else needed their stupid little.
Yeah, and they could wear
COVID
those and
masks.
attack Colorado or Brazil or wherever. Anyways.
Bro, I would love to see one of the Talakans walk to the middle of the Sahara Desert and kill the nomads. Like, just
Ride a whale up the
Wow.
Mississippi River, you know?
Yeah, it's like, bro, what are they gonna do when I change the pH value in those bad boys? Like, just avoid fog and you're good. Do they have to follow the rain clouds in order to kill everybody, man? Also, do the rain clouds have to have salt water?
Oh.
They do need water, bro. They wear the masks on their faces. They make a huge point of that.
Exactly.
So I'm right. They do need water.
But they don't need water where they're going.
Yeah,
where are they
but how are they
going?
going to take over the world? Or they take over the world if they don't go on land? Warren, think. That's like saying, I am single-handedly going to go beat up Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I'm going to sit right here and it's going to happen.
They specifically mentioned the only one who needed water to like be stronger physiologically was Namor, because he's like getting strength from the air and the water because he's a mutant.
Yeah, and so you also have mutants that are on land. I think if Storm chucked a couple of lightning bolts at this guy, he'd be a little sizzled. I'm not gonna lie. Like there's so much in this. Doctor Strange can just go whoop and just open a portal inside of him and kill him. Like,
which is the dilemma of all Marvel movies, you know?
Exactly.
They don't work. They don't mesh together anymore, even though they're trying to. Still,
the power levels have gone a little crazy, yeah. But like that's the thing is, I never once believed, because of everything that we've seen, that this guy could even come close to taking over the world. Doctor Strange takes care of this in like half an hour with a couple of bagel bites. Like, he's done. Captain America's gonna lose, but not everybody.
Captain America
don't-
already lost.
Yeah, his life. Steve Rogers dead. But no, I just I hear all these lines you're saying, but for me, all I go is that was done in another movie. That's a trope from another movie. That's a generic action twist. And so I don't see this movie as anything spectacular, just kind of good old Marvel in a good way.
What'd you guys think of Killmonger?
Loved it.
I was very
I thought it was
surprised.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 best part of the movie. Just it was very surprising. I thought it fit in with Shuri's character arc really well.
Yeah.
And I thought it undermined everything that I was expecting from what that scene was going to be and my expectations for that scene.
Yeah.
And I was also just super happy they didn't have any CG Chadwick Boseman show up.
Mhm.
Oh well, oh my gosh. People wouldn't have, but if we lived in a rational society, people would have rioted if they would have CG Chadwick.
I mean, like, I also think that was Coogler's friendship with him showing through a little bit to not do that as well, because
Yeah.
I guarantee you someone probably suggested
Yeah,
it.
let's bring him back for
Definitely.
one scene.
Yeah, and he just said
Mm,
no, and I
no.
think that's a very good, like, solid thing. It's like, okay, I know the director, and so like you say, the director was on this end, but I think on this, the director was very much like, nah, we're gonna keep this here.
It was
and
absolutely the
kind of
correct
go with the
decision.
reality.
Narratively, I mean, and real for so many reasons, it was the right decision not to do that. Yes.
I also love him. He's got a presence on the
He is a
screen.
phenomenal actor. And
Yeah.
he gives the best performances in the movie, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean,
He just has
second best.
presence.
Winston
He just has a
Duke.
power that to him that
He does.
comes through within seconds. Like as soon as the camera turns and he's revealed, he's
Yeah,
there.
with
He's
like the
back.
sitting pose,
He
just
is
like,
Killmonger again, and it's
yep,
it's awesome.
yeah. In just like the white robe that he's wearing and everything like that, and just the setting too. I really liked with all the fire is really fun, and he's on the throne, and it sets forward the no, I might be dead, but I'm still in control. Don't forget it, and I loved that.
And like
It
even the
was
first shot on the
so
throne,
good.
it looks like you think it's the queen's hat at first, and then it's Killmonger's hair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. No, I loved that it wasn't just revealed in a trailer to be something. Oh, I brought Killmonger back. Like, I like that they kept to at least one thing secret, and that was cool.
Yeah. They kept him secret, and they kept Elaine from Seinfeld secret. The two cheer moments.
Do
Do you think it works narratively though?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
very
it
much
fits
so.
through because it's all about Shuri's character arc and which path is she going to choose. I think that was the crux of the movie.
As much as I've ragged on it, I do kind of really enjoy Shuri's character arc, how she makes her choices, and a lot of the irrationality that follows her as well, of someone who's just very angry, very upset, and very young. And it's like, would you burn the world because you lost a few things that were dear to you, and then still maybe think yourself self-righteous at the very end? For sure.
I think it's also
and
like
so for me that flows well.
she's so lost because like she talks about how like she's been given these gifts and she's so smart and has so many skills and they weren't enough to save her brother, and she's like what is my purpose if I can't use them to, like, she's going through a lot of doubt and questioning, and like a lot of people do, well, I guess everyone does, and so she's very lost when we first meet her, I think. And I think that really works well for this arc of which path is she going to go down, because she's so confused and lost and angry.
Yeah. I think, however, it does kind of really show how much this movie is lacking a good performer like Chadwick Boseman, someone that could have been that presence all the way through, unfortunately. And it's sad, it's awful, it's tragic. But I also think that I I was excited. It was awesome when he showed up. But I think what he started to say and the seeds he planted in Shuri, I don't think he really. I felt like the movie just took a a left turn after that. Like I didn't see that in Shuri at all. I thought her that she was lost and confused, but I didn't see an anger in her
Not
at
even when she
all.
said, "I want to burn the world."
I thought that was just cheesy, and it was like,
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
didn't like that
huh?
line because
Yeah.
I immediately grasped it as, oh, there's her. I
It's
picked up on
it's
it
like
as
no.
the obvious
And
that's what they're going to do
It
with the
was a little
character,
rushed.
and
but
here's the thing, it's
it
like
sucked as a line.
it's okay. It's something that she says. It shouldn't be the thesis for her character, just a line she says in a reaction to something her mom said to her. That's so shallow. That's so surface level. Marvel movies just can't understand how people think and how people feel. And it's like, oh, have Shuri say, want to I want to burn the world, and then that's gonna be the mirror to Neymar's character arc, because he actually wants to burn the world. It I
Actually, he
didn't
wants to drown it.
well yeah, but I don't think it just didn't sit with me at all. And then Killmonger shows up, says, take care of business like me, and it's like I don't see Killmonger in her at all. And that brings me back to my point. Wait for a second there, because it'll bring me back to something. But I think also the placement of the scene didn't work. I think it should have been done. I think there are two options that should have happened for this. It should have either been done earlier on, and then if Shuri wants to not tell anyone and keep it to herself and say, "Oh man, I saw Killmonger in my trip to the spirit realm," which is, that's terrifying. And if she wants to keep it to herself, do it earlier in the film, have her grapple with it through the rest of the film. Or if you want to keep it in that spot, have her tell someone, have her tell one person, have her tell Nakia. And then Nakia is going to think to herself, that's not good. That's a bad sign. She's going to start to question the mission they're going to go on and say, maybe this isn't a very smart thing to do. Maybe maybe the anger has gotten to Shuri's head way too much, and she's thinking and acting irrationally, and what we're about to do is not the right decision. That would create some tension between the characters and for the audience as they wouldn't all be charging, as Wakanda wouldn't just be charging forward saying, let's go kill some Talikans. They're going to be grappling with what this movie thinks they are grappling with, the concept of whose side are you on, and maybe your enemies aren't totally wrong. Doing that, I think, would have got that out of that. Um, I and then when Shuri and Namor go into the desert alone, then that's some serious, tension that'll really worry Nakia or whoever she tells that this could end in disaster. I don't think this is a case where information given to the audience needs to be hidden from the rest of the characters. I think that someone needs to know. Or if no one needs to know, do it earlier on. Give her more time to grapple with this because it's as I said earlier, this is just an example of um an emotional theme thrown at the screen, no time to develop it onto the action sequence, I think.
I think I'm definitely partway with you here. I think that is one thing that felt kind of rushed and a little hard to play along with because it is definitely not built up enough. Her rage, um,
Yeah.
yeah, very rushed.
I agree, but I wasn't expecting anything big. Like I wasn't expecting or I guess requiring for the sake of enjoyment them to really think about it either. I was like, here's character, here's line, believe line, go from there. Good. I was like, good.
I don't think it like ruined the movie for me or anything. I was just like, oh, I
Hmm.
wish they'd spent, maybe 5 minutes, like one more scene to build this up a little more.
If they had taken out a lot of the Riri Williams stuff, if they'd taken out all of the CIA interactions and put in um a few more of these deep dive scenes with character development, yeah, I think it would have been a lot better, but can't change everything, I guess.
Yeah. And I know this doesn't work with the, Wakandan politics or whatever. I mean, that's not how a monarchy works. But I really think Nakia should have been if you want to try to tell the story you're going to tell, this was a Nakia story, not a Shuri story, because they literally called, Nakia the war dog or whatever, something like that, right? She seems like someone who would have lost her husband and then kind of got angry, I think. But she also is a much more mature character. She's not a child. She's very smart. She's very th thoughtful, she seems at least. She is, obviously a great spy and then has the potential to be a good leader. And I think if she would have gone into the spirit realm, she probably would have seen Chadwick. But given the circumstances, maybe she would have seen Killmonger. Maybe she would have said, all right, I'm gonna go get business done. And then if this movie really wanted to have a punch, then it needed to be smaller scale. It needed to be either Shuri or Nakia just hell bent on revenge in some sort of way. And then after seeing Killmonger, that just affirming everything she's thinking, and just her going and grappling with the concept of her anger and her grief that goes along with her grief, and the moving on and the peacefulness that has defined Wakanda and needs to define Wakanda, and her trying to go from one to the other and become a good leader out of that.
I think that could have worked, but that would be like an entirely different movie, entirely different
Yeah,
premise.
maybe that's what I wanted. I just want these movies to every once in a while just stop and breathe and say, maybe we don't need to fight an army this time. Maybe we just need to go man versus self, you know?
I think this one did that
You
much
can
more than most MCU films, though, which is why
I
I'm a
know.
little confused by a couple of your criticisms.
Okay. You felt it emotionally and I didn't, you know? That's that.
Because I think this movie is very much like Shuri and Namor, their self, like their journeys and their own character arcs, much more than this is, two armies fighting each other. This
To be
is
completely honest, I don't think either of them had a real big journey. They kind of ended maybe a half a step forward from where they were. For the most part, they were just angry and unchanging until they just got punched a lot.
well, Namor goes from, I'm the biggest, strongest dude and I'm gonna wipe everyone out to well,
To
maybe
what?
I'm not quite as great and mighty as I thought I was. And
No, because at the very end he
Shuri
says,
goes
"Oh, we'll
from,
still get our war." He doesn't change at all.
well, he changed slightly.
Yeah, to now have a different way
No,
of
he still
achieving
has
the
the
same
same
It
goal.
goal.
was
He just has a
if
different.
he was, I am the chosen one. I am the most powerful person on the world in the on in Earth. To there's one nation out there that can rival me. I'm gonna lay low for a couple more movies and then I'll come back.
Well, I'm gonna, yeah,
Fair.
I've got to kind of play them instead of just wiping. Like I can't just do everything I thought I could. But then
Yeah.
Shuri goes from wanting
From
to
what?
burn everything down,
To
which we talked
letting
about.
half of her to letting half of her army
I
get
But
don't
lost
think
she
she
goes
because
was
from
they
ever
lost
I
a
don't
good
think
few
she ever
people.
had that mindset until Killmonger put it in her. And I think that's just total
it was
a
supposed to be there
Don't
before,
go
but
putting
it
thoughts into my
shouldn't have
head that
done
weren't
that.
there
I
in the
know,
first
don't go putting
place.
thoughts in my head that weren't there in the first place.
But then she goes from
Don't go
like
invading his
lost in confusion
civilization
to her
now.
rage to at the end realizing that for the sake of herself, her mother, her people, all like everyone, she needs to put aside her rage, her grief, everything, and put other people before her own.
But
But
you don't
she
have to put aside your
doesn't.
grief. Rage was never in her. I don't think. I don't think she's ever been this character that's just raging.
Well,
I
that's
think
clearly what was established early in the movie, even though I think we agree it wasn't established very well.
yeah,
It wasn't established
yeah.
at all. She just said a lie.
She seems like someone who's
She didn't seem
lost.
angry in that. She
She
seemed like she was
seems
about to
lost,
cry.
confused, just scared of the responsibility of becoming the next leader of Wakanda, you know? And then when her mother dies, which is just, I don't think it's a little side point. Look, the way her mother dies is so goofy. Like she gets Riri Williams out of the puddle, but she gets him all the way she gets Riri all the way to the top, but she still dies, like from exhaustion, maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
it didn't
Yeah.
show them
No,
get
yeah,
to the
you
surface.
can.
It just
Like,
showed
But
them.
then
you
she's
can
floating on
strain
the
your heart like
surface.
that.
Like, I,
I think they
I,
both
yeah, I
because the
guess
both
body
they
would
went
could have.
float.
unconscious before they reached the surface.
Yeah, it's like if I think Namor should have just taken her underwater and stabbed her through the gut, and then she could have still drowned underwater, and then you still get the scene where Shuri wakes up underwater for her spirit realm, and then when Shuri can no, and then Namor goes and stabs Shuri through the gut in the final scene. There's your
Yeah, I think
mirror.
I'm with you
Then
there.
There's
Shuri
your parallels.
overcomes it.
I
I
just
agree.
think that there are so many details in this movie on top of the overarching, you know, lack of empathy towards anyone who isn't in the elite. I think there are so many details in this story that just really
I think the
just
story
bring
is
it down.
about
They're so
empathy for those
stupid
people, though.
decisions.
The story is about empathy for the people who aren't these elite characters we
But
see.
I don't feel like they change. I don't feel like they end up caring more
No,
toward the
they
end.
don't. There's no empathy for the working class. There isn't any empathy for the working class. They all
Yeah.
get slaughtered like animals.
And that's Marvel for
It's a
you.
good thing that like the two main characters survived getting drowned by those big water bombs in the city. Everybody else dead. Bye bye.
And it's hard to tell a big expansive story like that, without doing that. But then don't tell a big expansive story.
Yeah.
Tell a personal story about one of these people and how they've lost their brother or lost their husband.
That's what it was, though.
No, it wasn't. It was a big expansive
No.
story where people have to go
No.
boom and they have
This
to
is like
ride
that's
whales
what
and
this
throw
is like
things
the
onto.
opposite of. Anyways, okay.
All right, all right, all right.
To switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Will, I believe you had mentioned something about Nakia's son. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So for me, I thought it was a super sweet scene, like sweet and tender, but I don't think it added anything to the movie. It was very disconnecting for me. I was like, what? I thought the final scene is just going to be Shuri and her grief and getting over it that way. Why is there
Gotta have
now
your
Black Panther
post-credit
3?
scene. He's not even gonna be Black Panther 3. He's gonna be Black
I
Panther
just thought it
5 or
was
something like that,
yeah, but like it's just like, oh, okay, so now they can still use T'Challa or whatever.
Ugh, and they give him the same name.
Yeah, I like
I thought it
I
was such a beautiful way to wrap up the story, because if you think about it, Shuri, so much of her journey in the movie is she's lost and angry and confused and all these things because she's lost her father, her mother, her brother, and people who not only knew her but allowed her to kind of be who she wanted to be, because she didn't have to worry about um, the social pressures, the political pressures, all these things, because it was always, her father was the king, she could do her own thing. Her brother was the king, she could do her own thing. Her mother was the queen, she could do her own thing. And so much of this movie is now everyone expects so many different things of her, and nobody really knows her. And so she's trying to figure out who she is, as so much is expected of her from so many different sides. And I think it's such a great ending to the movie, because shows not only like she still has family, and also now she's not going to have to worry about
nothing
now she's not going to
stronger
have to
than
worry about like
family.
her family's legacy or like the responsibility to all these things. Now there's a lot less pressure on her now, if that makes sense.
because everyone died. Is that why there's less pressure, Warren?
No, now she's not the last person of her family.
It's better when you can. These people don't. The other in the first Black Panther, these people didn't seem crazy.
Imagine
They
a
weren't
strong
like
female character rising to the
awful. It seemed like if
challenge.
you went to them and talked to them, you could resolve things. If there was pressure on you, you could go and say, "Hey, I'm feeling this way," and then they would be like, "Okay," and then they could talk it out. I know it's a Marvel movie and they never talk things out, but it seemed like they were they were people. And in this, now that they're dead, there's less pressure. No, there's more pressure because you gotta
I
live
mean,
up to.
no. Setting aside after all that, instead of just ending with like her looking into the sky,
Which I think would have been a beautiful ending. Like I don't understand why they need to set up a
they're not.
sequel.
No,
'Cause
it has
arguably
nothing to do
all
with the
this
future,
does is set up a
because this
sequel.
is
What?
like he's not gonna. No, this kid is like 5 years old. He's not gonna matter until like 30 years down the line. This is all about wrapping up.
They're
this
gonna
story.
They'll just
recast
time
Warren,
skip
they're
for
They're
Black
not gonna
Panther
use
It's
3.
about
that
wrapping up
kid.
this story.
Warren, this isn't real life. They're not using that kid.
I know, but this has nothing to do with like 10 years from now. This is about wrapping up Shuri's story.
Yeah, and the way that Shuri's story was wrapped up was with her moving on from her pain by burning the funeral clothes. There's no
I
need
disagree
to
vehemently.
have the kid there.
So the final scene, I'm talking about the final scene, not the post-credit scene. The final scene is almost really good, honestly. I think if it was in a better movie, it would have been kind of touching, I think. It was a good callback. It's the burning the garments, releasing your grief and acknowledging your grief, and I liked it. Unfortunately, I just A it and sadly, I just didn't have a much investment in Shuri's grief and her story because it was just to me it's just 3.5 hours of just emotionless slog. I didn't feel anything. Sorry,
Wait,
and
3.5.
no, not 3.5. It was 2.5. But even though the final scene kind of could work for some people who were invested in the movie, you got that, and then there's the end credits, and the song, and then it's almost good. And then they cut to the post-credit scene where it's like the next second after that. They can't even let that rest. They can't even let that, they can't even leave that alone. They have to bring in the kid. The kid's got to come in for the post-credit scene and say, "Hey everyone, I'm the new Black Panther." And it's just Marvel saying, "Oh, Chadwick Boseman died. We know that people don't live forever now. Someday, Letitia Wright's gonna die because people don't live forever, and so we got to have our next Black Panther. We got to keep making these movies. We got to have a replacement because we gotta have a prep next time. We gotta have a business plan next time, just in case this person dies. We gotta have everything lined up." It undercut everything. It, it,
But it
it
had
undercut
nothing to
everything in
do
the
with.
final scene. It
It
has
was all
everything
about
to do with the
Shuri's
final scene.
arc. It has nothing to do with the
It's
future.
not about Shuri's arc. It's naked. It's not even her son. It's her nephew. Yeah, but it's like okay, if Shuri wants to, it's like why not introduce it in the next movie? Why undercut this movie?
Because it's wrapping up this
It's
story.
not wrapping up the story. It's the next movie. It's everything to do with the next one.
No,
It's
it has
saying, "Oh,
nothing to do
guys,
with
here,
the
don't
next
worry,
one. It's
guys. There's
about this one.
a new Black Panther. You guys can still give us your money for the next one.
No,
Don't
it's
worry."
not the next. Oh.
Warren, you are. This isn't subjective. You are
You are
objectively
wrong,
wrong.
Warren.
It
Ah,
it, it is objectively
it's just
like
another
Shuri's
instance
story is
of
wrapped
every
up.
tiny thing this movie did right. It did a big thing wrong to crush it, and it hurts.
Well, on that note, now is as good a time as any to move to ratings.
I think it is.
All right. Well, I'll say I think Ryan Coogler has become my favorite MCU director. This was definitely my favorite movie of Phase 4. Um, so many things. I think really the thing that's stuck out the most to me was just how much I love the conflict. And we've already talked about that, so I won't harp on it much longer. But this is my favorite MCU conflict in at least several years. Um, yeah, I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10.
All right, solid score expected.
Carter, we have to have
I
the good rating sandwich. Remember?
Sure, I'm good with that. Um, I I like to apologize to anyone who felt emotionally moved by this, but man, I didn't like this. I think that I think that these films, you can't, I think that all filmmakers have to be philosophers. And I think that the MC, all right, let me restart. Sorry. I think the reason I hate Marvel is not because I hate their movies. It's because I hate their business plan. I think under every Marvel movie is a nugget or even a boulder of good storytelling, of of greatness that wants to come through. But I think it's as I said, it's just neutered and stifled and beaten down by this system and this business structure that they have to keep up with. I think that these movies eh, they just reflect the capitalist neoliberal world that we live in. And I think that nothing will change as long as our culture just wants to consume them and doesn't recognize that these are detrimental to our ability to think critically. I, d- I I acknowledge that this is far from the worst thing ever created, but honestly, this is really just everything I hate about movies. There's no heart. It's just noise. And you won't remember, or at least I am not going to remember a thing about this tomorrow. It's a 2 out of 10 for me.
Yo, that's hilarious.
Oh, Carter, you almost reached the bar again. Oh.
All right, for me, it is quite simply don't expect too much. It's a stinking Marvel movie. 8 out of 10. Like that's it. It's not good.
Cool.
It's fun. It's exactly what I expected.
hmm
Nothing really surprised me. It's not original. It's not unique. There are no real great lines. The soundtrack's kind of meh. Pretty good. Pretty
This,
good. Wasn't
this is
wasn't as
Carter's
bad as
rage
I
origin
expected.
story. He's about to see Killmonger.
If you like Marvel, you'll like this movie.
Uh, actually, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I
So
don't know if that's a blanket statement
a
that
couple,
works, Will.
I was speaking to some of
No,
my cousins, and some of them basically they either loved it or really didn't like it, and some of
he's
them,
done.
I think, strangely, I think some of the people who disliked it the most that I talked to really like the first one. So I don't think it has to do with liking or not liking the MCU.
I quite like the first one.
Me too.
I think it's I think it's the second what I can't see where you're showing me, Will. It's bedtime. Okay. It's bedtime, everyone. If you guys don't have anything else to say,
Next episode will be on Glass Onion.
oh yeah.
All right. So we'll
Check
see you
out
there
Knives Out and Glass Onion if you haven't yet.
to prepare. Yep.
You
Yep,
don't need to
because
watch Knives Out to prepare. It's a separate story.
well, we will be spoiling
Yeah,
both,
we'll be spoiling
most
it.
likely.
We didn't even spoil Black Panther 1.
Yeah, we
We
did.
said
We did a
no, we
little bit. I mean,
didn't.
we gave some stuff away.
We said the word Killmonger.
Carter went through the whole movie basically.
Yep.
Anyways,
Yeah, you just weren't paying attention, Will. You gotta listen to the podcast
as
again to
usual,
catch it.
as per usual. Yep.
Mhm.
Carter, you wanna say the
I
line?
would love to. Thanks for
You
joining
guys
us,
are great.
guys. This is a pretty good one. This was enjoyable
This
for
was a
me at
fiery
least. I
one.
hope. All right. Until next time, we are the monkeys, and talking about movies is our business. Catch you next time.
Nothing
Or
cracks me up like an
philosophy,
angry
I
Carter.
guess.